I cannot with you guys. I'm trying to be serious here, okay? This is my life.
Kiss it.
Hello. Oh, this look, okay. I like this look. You know what it's giving? It's giving, ladies, leave your man at home. That cup is full of. And they what? I ain't got no alfalfas, do I? See how I just dropped in that frame like that? See how I did drop in the frame? Why y'all put up with me? Okay, I'm ready. Reality television is often dismissed as surface level entertainment, but beneath the competitions, the confessionals, and the chaos, there's a deeper story happening. One about how perception, power, and how narratives are built in real time. Today's conversation explores what happens when we stop watching it passively and start interrogating what it reflects back at us, about human behavior, social hierarchies, and the stories that we choose to believe. Because once you understand what's happening behind the mirror, you can never watch the same way again. Welcome to Reality Redefined.
You're listening to Reality Redefined, the podcast. This is Reality Redefined, where the only script is the one you create. Hit play and let the reality revolution begin.
We are back for another gem dropping session with yours truly. I'm your host, Jayla Roxx, and this is Reality Redefined, the show where we take the chaos of reality television and look at what it's really teaching us and telling us beneath the surface. Every Wednesday on iHeartRadio, we step beyond the edits, the headlines, and the hot takes to explore the psychology, power dynamics, and the cultural impact shaping the stories that we love to watch. Today's question for you is this. Are you watching reality television for entertainment, or are you letting it shape what you believe about people, success, and human behavior without realizing it? In this episode, my conversation with Taran Armstrong pushes us to reconsider how narratives are built and why certain players are celebrated while others are misunderstood. The takeaway is simple, but it's powerful. Strategy does not exist in a vacuum. Perception matters, editing matters, and our own biases as viewers matter just as much as what's happening on screen. This conversation challenges us to slow down and watch things more thoughtfully, to ask better questions, and to recognize that reality TV, when examined closely, tells us just as much about ourselves as it does about the players. That's the heart of Reality Redefined, looking deeper, thinking critically, and choosing understanding over surface level judgment. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Reality Redefined, the podcast.
Today's guest is one of the sharpest minds in the genre, and my relationship goes all the way back to my season of Sequester season 3, when strategies and chaos were literally the name of the game. He was breaking down all of the moves while I was making them, okay? Talk about a full circle moment. He has spent years studying human behavior under pressure, the alliances that we form, the stories that we tell, and the versions of ourselves that show up when the stakes are the highest. He's turned analysis into an art form, and now he can officially add author to his resume with his incredible new book, Behind the Mirror. He's a strategist, a storyteller, and someone who's helped fans understand the game behind the game. So Redefiners, please help me welcome Taran Armstrong. First and foremost, I want to say welcome to Reality Redefined and joining me today. I never got my exit interview with your podcast, so this time I get to flip the script on you, okay? You interview all of the game players and all the people that come through, so this is my chance to understand who is Taran Armstrong.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm definitely not nearly as used to being interviewed as I am doing the interviewing, so we'll see how it goes.
Now, do I make you nervous?
Not so far. We'll see how it goes, maybe.
So listen, you built this huge platform analyzing reality TV, but for our listeners and for our viewers at home, who is Taran Armstrong? You know, you can't just say Taran anymore. You are Taran Armstrong, the author, okay? So we want to know, who is Taran before all of the shenanigans?
Man, I feel like I've constantly changed as a person. I think even once I started doing this. In fact, I think like a lot of the changes have come through doing this. The through line of it all is that I always loved Big Brother. I always was so fascinated in watching it, studying it, and trying to tell people about it. So that was certainly a big thing. I think I've gotten a lot better at that, at the very least.
I love that we have so many parallels because that's how I got started in reality TV. I was like 15, 16 years old. And do you remember shows like Flavor of Love, Rock of Love, all those things? I was interviewing like the exit interviews for all the contestants that came through those shows, like back in the MySpace days. And you fast forward 15 years later, I'm now producing reality TV. I've been on it, I've lost it, I've won it. So reality TV has kind of been ingrained in my spirit, if you will. And you talk about in the book too that it was Dr. Will from Big Brother season 2 was the one for you to kind of revolutionize the whole mind of a strategist. And I read also that you said the show Big Brother clicked with American audiences because it was a reflection of us, and it stuck with American audiences because it evolves. So let's talk about getting into the mind of a strategist like yourself. After years of analyzing players, what have you learned about your own strengths and your own blind spots?
Wow, good question. I think probably one of the biggest ones for me was that the Big Brother is such a platform or like environment that you can sort of be a part of that allows you to really see see more perspectives that you wouldn't necessarily be able to see. And so when I grew up watching, I was looking for me on the show, finding me in players like Dr. Will. And I'm not like Dr. Will, but like there was some small element of me that I could find myself in. As I grew up, I started, I think, looking for things outside of me. I started looking for perspectives that were different. Over time, I started to understand how different it can be to come in as different people into a game like this. What you come in with, the way that people see you, it's not the same game for every player that walks in as much as we would like it to be. And understanding that, I think, has really helped shape not only who I am, but like my perspective on the world and on our society. And I think that there's sort of a growing understanding of that, or at least has been or had been a growing understanding of that in the reality community at large. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones.
One thing that I learned about you after watching you over all these years, at least in the online space, is Taran is so known for being calm and collected. You have this analytical presence about you, and that's kind of like kind of reality legend status. Now, me, I am the opposite, and you've seen that, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, do you ever feel that there could be any aspects of it that seem performative, or is it something that you think like, hey, this is really who I am?
When I started podcasting, I was known as the robot, largely because I really came at things from this very not very emotional, analytical, at least visually perspective. And the trick to it was that I was actually called the robot before I started podcasting. And the reality is that like there is no true, unbiased, unemotional analysis or perspective. It all comes from somewhere, and it's really just like the delivery more than anything else that's going to make you seem like you are. You can't claim that when you're analyzing something, you're doing it from a perspective of not being biased toward a certain thing, because of course you have an opinion. If you didn't, it wouldn't be commentary, it wouldn't be analysis. So is it a performance? No, definitely not. If anything, the performance is anything that gets more animated. um, in the sense that I really feel like I have to try to be entertaining. Before I did podcasting, I really didn't think anybody would want to watch me do anything because I was really boring. And I feel like I learned over time how to be a little bit more of an entertainer. But I think the reason I succeeded in the way that I did was not because I was bombastic, but because people enjoyed the way I told stories. And I think that's what sort of carried me for a while. But Yeah, I would say it's honestly quite a weakness of mine that I'm not the best at displaying emotions.
And I'm a Pisces, so I totally understand that my face, this one here, hides no emotion. I mean, I cry at the good things, I cry at the bad things. Like everything's just an emotional like fountain for me, I guess. But it comes from being so passionate about what we do. Like even with your show and everything, even with the book, there has to be some sort of purpose that drives that passion. And that's what I want to ask you. What keeps you passionate about engaging with these type of shows that we watch and millions of people having opinions on it, covering them year after year?
I think it's the foundation of the book, and it's why I was able to write the book. Is that I I don't think I could have just written a straight history of the show. I don't think I could have gone line by line, season by season. Here's what happened. Here's the nostalgia of it. Whatever, those things I hope are there, but to me, there wasn't enough passion in it until I was able to. And I say until, but it was part of the essential component. It was an essential component of it from the beginning was that it can relate to society at large. It can relate to our everyday existence. It is speaking to the things I am most passionate about in life, power dynamics and the ways that we interact and relationships. It touches on everything, and that's what I find so fascinating about the show. And that's why I think we're all able to go back to it year after year. Those of us that are trapped in the web of Big Brother, and so I think that's really the thing. If it didn't touch on those things, and I think the live feeds are an essential part of allowing it to touch on those things, then yeah, I don't think that I would or many people would be able to continue to engage so passionately.
You wrote a book about it, so you are definitely the almighty high now. You have definitely reached that zenith point. So I'm gonna give you your flowers, and I know it's a lot, but do you feel like your relationship with reality TV has evolved now that you're in this leadership space?
But, I mean, that's a loaded question because you're implying that I am, and that if I don't say, I mean, I think I would classify myself as an expert at this point. I wrote a book on it. I've watched it my whole life. I think there are probably very few people in the world who have talked about the show as much as I have, spent as much time examining the show as much as I have. And so that feels appropriate. I think leader to me implies that I'm trying to lead people anywhere, or that people are following me in different directions. And that's not really something I'm that interested in. I think part of what makes the show so fun and interesting is that so many people have so many different perspectives on it and so many different ways to see it and engage with it, and I hope that the way that I engage with it is fun and entertaining for the people that enjoy listening to me. But I don't feel like I'm leading anybody in any particular direction. I think the way that my relationship with reality TV has evolved the most. The way that I look at how the shows treat their contestants, the ways that I'm now friends with many people who go on these shows. I maybe look at it with a slightly different lens. I'm still watching it in the same way that I always did. And I think that if I wasn't, I wouldn't be an effective content creator around it. Like luckily for me, the same amount of passion that I've always had for it still exists in many of the same ways. And that's something that people are able to relate to, luckily.
Yeah, and you talk about being friends with some of the people who have gone through this machine of the fishbowl, itself, and we can always empathize with them. So I want to know to you, what is your best practice of empathy when speaking about the players who sometimes struggle under that public scrutiny?
Yeah, it's a very good question because I sort of used to look at it more in the sense of like I need to very blanket empathy approach everyone. And then I feel like that just isn't something that's super effective. I mean, I think that obviously you should approach everyone with a certain degree of empathy. And I think the way that I really try to look at it is, and it's the same with life, is that like I need to be able to speak against certain kinds of behaviors and actions. That means that if that means that I'm speaking against a person, then so be it. But I'm really speaking against the way that they're behaving or the things that they're doing. If they're doing a bad thing, it doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. That's not really for me to judge. But I do know that the thing they're doing is bad. And so I will rail against that if I feel it's necessary. And I know it's an inevitable consequence sometimes. I'm not trying to make them feel bad. I'm not trying to hurt them. I'm just trying to point out that I think the thing they're doing is harmful and that it's not good. That is the primary way that I try to operate. And obviously, there's very different severities of bad behavior and all of that stuff. There are many people that if you point out that what they're doing that you think it's not very good, they'll go, well, screw you then. You suck, you woke asshole, or whatever. And I hope that the way that I do it is delicate enough and gentle enough that the people that I'm criticizing, whether it's their behavior or their gameplay or whatever, they can come out and say, you know what, I may disagree with him or he may disagree with the way that I did a thing, but I can respect that he still treated me like I was a human being, not just, a 2D character on a screen that could be dunked on or whatever.
So let's talk about putting this entire book together, Behind the Mirror. Yes, it's written by Taran Armstrong, but do you agree that the co authors could also be the audience?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm telling many different stories in the book, and one of them is my own. I am sort of a representative of the audience in many ways, and then I'm also trying to give the broader perspective of the audience throughout the book. And of course, it's not going to represent all of the audience, but the book wouldn't be anything without the audience. It's dedicated to the audience. There's a small part of the book that is from production's perspective as well, but it was sort of a decision I made early on was that again, this wasn't going to be like a tell all, here are all of production secrets, here's like all of the interviews with the people who will either just give me the company line or be like dishing, unverifiable stuff that I'm turning it into a whole thing that it's not. And it's not really what the book was about. It was about the perspective of the fans, about what the show means to people, the audience, and the players as well. I think are a huge source of the storytelling throughout. They are the story. It's weird to have a book that's telling the story of many different stories, and then basically like the actors or players in the story are then able to sort of commentate on it after the fact. It's kind of a weird and fun thing. So yeah, absolutely.
The book also explores how fans can create their own narrative. What do you think makes the audience so sure that their version is the real one? Why are they so passionate about making sure that their version is the truth?
I mean, I think that's a worldwide phenomenon, whether it's about Big Brother or anything. Unfortunately, there's a huge amount of certainty that we feel we need to give ourselves in order to feel comfortable in the narratives that we hold. And that's why you often see people who only watch the show will, this most recent season, people who only watch the show, what? How did that happen? That's stupid. Like, very, very confidently say something like Ashley didn't do anything all season, even though they know there's a lot that they did not see. The narrative that was crafted for them was so convincing, or at the very least, that they were able to convince themselves that it was reality enough because it fit what they wanted to feel, that they felt comfortable saying it to people that were saying, no, I saw a lot more. And there was actually a lot more that happened. I'm sure there are many like evolutionary benefits to that being a part of our brains, but I think it causes a lot of problems in society as well. And we're currently in a situation where, we have a whole population who's living in an entirely different world than a whole other population, and it's not great.
The biggest advice I could always say is as much as you want to, don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. Do you think that social media plays a part in the relationship between the players and the viewers?
I think that social media it gives and it takes when it comes to the contestants, because one of the stories I tell in the book is about Jennifer from season 6, who of course very famously betrays Kaser, and got an immense amount of hate. People just ran rampant, contacting her job, getting her fired, sending her death threats, wishing her harm, uh, all over the place. And that was well before social media was truly a thing. Um, and she had no real recourse to fight or combat any of that. She had no way of sort of giving her own perspective, defending herself in any meaningful way, unless she went on another show or had like opportunities from for like TV interviews or maybe some side interviews, but even then it was so fragmented. But on the other hand, she, if she wanted to be, could be relatively removed from it, of course, apart from the contacting her job thing. But like once the season ended and people moved on to the next season, she could probably just kind of like move on with her life to some degree. And there's many kinds of trauma that stems from it. And I'm sure there were a lot of things. And she said, even in the interview that she did with Sharon a few years ago, that like she was worried that even just talking about it again was going to bring up a new wave of hate. Um, but now it is so much harder to avoid. You know, people say don't read the comments. People say don't be online, essentially. Don't have a social media account. But everyone has a social media account, you know? Like it's not that easy to just not have a public presence in any capacity. And if you do, people are like, are you a serial killer? Like what is happening? And so like it's not that easy. You essentially have to like seclude yourself like a hermit in order to actually avoid those things, because it's not difficult for people to reach you. Wherever you go, there will be people. Whenever you post anything completely unrelated, there will be people in your comments going, hey, person that said that thing, how did they feel when you betrayed that person on Big Brother 10 years ago? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't avoid it anymore, or nearly to the degree that you could have before. But again, on the other hand, you do have more power, can, to some degree control or at least influence the narrative that exists, because you can speak your piece more easily. So I really feel like again, it gives and it takes, and I don't know what's better. I don't know what's worse, but it's all very dangerous.
We can analyze reality TV all day long. I would love to. But while I have you here, I want to get to know a little bit more about Taran the person. I ask all my guests coming to this platform, what would your younger self say to the Taran that we see today?
I think about that a lot. I remember a lot of times being a kid, not having a great time, as I think a lot of people probably don't have a great time as a kid, but I didn't love it. And I remember fantasizing about like when I'm older, I get out of here, I become something, what, have a girlfriend, like not be miserable. I'll not be poor. I'll like, all of these things that I felt like were intrinsic parts of me that felt like fantasy to not actually be a part of me. I think about my life now, and the thing that I often think about is that it is beyond what I was able to fantasize when I was a kid. Like, even in my fantasies, I couldn't imagine being as fulfilled and lucky as I am now. And I really try to hold that as often as I can, because, it is very lucky to be in the position that I'm in, and I'm very, very grateful, and I'm, you know, maybe like one time at a time, like healing that inner child who couldn't even fantasize where I am today. And so, what would he think of it? He'd think, yeah, you're not going to trick me. I know that's not real.
And listening to your answer confirms everything that I need to know about this whole full circle moment that I keep talking about. And I'm truly grateful and honored to have had this conversation with you. Now, before we leave, what do you think would be a great takeaway from behind the mirror about humanity and not gameplay?
About humanity. I mean, first and foremost, what I hope people will take away is just that they enjoy reading it. But about humanity, I hope that they see or I hope that they are able to see the message that I'm trying to write down, which is that the way I see humanity is complex wreck of human emotion and interconnectedness and power struggle and cruelty and beauty and so much. And I think all of it is on display on Big Brother. And I think that at the end of the day, everyone who is drawn to the show, everyone who is on the show, even people who don't watch the show and who might look down their nose at the book like this, um, we're all in one way or another in it together, and we're all just trying, you know. Um, I wish some would try a little harder, but you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, Behind the Mirror, Inside the World of Big Brother is available right now where all books are sold. And you know what? There's an audio version too. We're just getting started. Tune in every Wednesday live on iHeartRadio and watch the visuals on YouTube for more gem dropping conversations. You don't want to miss it. Follow us at Reality Redefined Show and follow me and see what I got going on at Who is Jayla Roxx. And I'll see you next time.